All right, let's do this Chris Rufo thing really quickly, Bradley. I don't know if you guys have been following this story, but there is a really small liberal arts college in Florida, and it's known for being one of the more progressive colleges in the state, certainly the most progressive public college in the state, tiny school in Sarasota. And DeSantis, a few weeks ago, announced that there would be a takeover of the new college, that's the school, their board of trustees, including stacking it with a guy named Matthew Spalding, who is a professor and the dean of Hillsdale College, which people will might remember is one of the conservative religious Christian schools in the country, and was very pro-Trump. And also Chris Rufo. Chris Rufo, the founder of the anti-critical race theory panic in this country. And Chris Rufo has been bullish, saying this is a hostile takeover and I'm proud of it, of this particular college. But there was an open forum and Rufo was kind of attacked in a good way by people who were outraged about this takeover, including a mother of a student at the New College of Florida, who just to his face rips into him.
And declare that the new college will offer an alternative for conservative families in the state of Florida, to say there's a public university that reflects your values, as if conservative voters over any other view, liberal or not, in this state are more important than any other. How dare you believe that all Floridians agree with this obvious political power play? I know many Republicans and many Democrats that are currently disgusted with yours and the new board members' hostile takeover of this school and the attempted removal of its campus's academic freedoms. But most of all, how dare you come to this college full of diversity and bring with you the threats of violence that could certainly arise to a tiny college of 700 plus students that cannot defend themselves. To a group of students that finally feel like they have found a place they can call home, finally feel that they have found a place that is safe, where they can express their views and be who they are without ridicule or judgment. Believe me, these students have had enough ridicule and judgment already at their young ages, enough to last a lifetime. How dare you do this, Mr. Rufo, under the guise of equality, under the guise of a mandate from Governor DeSantis that we have yet to see. Is valuing the belief of one group over another, or is it ridiculing and bullying students that you promised to protect on social media in the governor's mandate too?
There's a part 2 of this as well, where this mother continued. It is just absolutely nuts. We can get into the specifics of it, but this is a part of DeSantis's multiple stunts in order to ingratiate himself with the Republican primary voter. But here we go.
As the new College Board of Trustees, you have a solemn duty to act in the best interest of everyone on this campus. Trustee implies the word trust, and at this moment, with your public statements, comments, and actions, I feel certain that no student, faculty, parent, or guest here today can say the trustees' names and the word trust in the same sentence. As parents of these students, we want our children to have the freedom to learn, to be themselves, and to grow up healthy and safe. We want them to have access to quality public education that is accessible to a diverse group of students across Florida, without fear of being indoctrinated into the conservative right-wing agenda. We want New College's stated commitment, a balance between recognizing and celebrating difference, respectfully supporting each other's growth, and ensuring that historically marginalized and oppressed groups are not experiencing trauma and harm, to continue unchanged. Most of you have no experience running a public institution of higher education. You are not from Florida and you have no ties to the state. Governor DeSantis is appointing unqualified people to this board with the sole intent of making this college and the students and faculty political pawns in his race to the White House, and he is attacking the institutional independence of the university by doing so. You have come in like a Trojan horse and destroyed the values we have instilled in our children.
Integrity, responsibility, respect, fairness, kindness, empathy, tolerance, and peace. Every single one you have destroyed. Sincerely, one pissed off parent and voter.
Pretty awesome.
Wow.
To say that to his face. I mean, this is a part of DeSantis's recent push. We covered it a little bit earlier, but he has successfully bullied the College Board nationally from changing its AP curriculum for African American studies, adding a conservative black portion to it, stripping it of thinkers and writers like James Baldwin and bell hooks, who are just like some of the most important reads that you could have in that area, and then pretending like it's the left that's authoritarian when they're doing book burnings and hostile takeovers of small schools so they can make them indoctrination factories like Hillsdale College, like Liberty University. And the problem is that there's just like no equivalent mechanism on the left to fight back against this. The money and power is all on the right. And they've had success with Hillsdale and Liberty University. Why would they not take it to a small public university in Florida? Because the governor is fully on board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, the last part that mother said was, true. It's like, this is all a stunt. The effectiveness of removing Black history from schools, and especially nowadays, and actively preventing most people from getting their hands on this stuff, especially as teachers and other groups fight back, is very small. What you are doing is hurting kids in pursuit of getting online clout and donations. These are the kind of things that play well to a group of very, very online MAGA type people who are going to fund his campaign. He's trying to get that Trump vote and differentiate himself from Trump in some ways. And if a few Floridian children become less marketable in the workplace, if they become less able to integrate in society because they, just have incredibly backwards views about everything, well, he'll have raised his $2 billion, war chest for the presidency. So it won't matter, and he's also, and this is also to appeal mostly to, voters outside of Florida. This is not so that Floridians, although there are quite a few who will support this, this is also, this is the appeal to like the Joe Rogans in Texas about who just want to use children in the idea of trans people indoctrinating youth, or CRT indoctrinating youth, as a way to avoid society changing from the way they remember it when they were younger, even though, they weren't engaged with the reality of the way America works either. So, I think there's a lot of reason to be mad that your child is becoming a pawn for a governor's play for the White House that ultimately is not going to even work. And especially when, you're paying for college.
Yeah, those kids got into that school with the expectation that they wanted that kind of space, and they're paying tuition for it. So they should have some ownership and say over this kind of like hostile takeover, as Rufo's basically bragging about there. But damn, I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, can I just say about Ruffo specifically? Some people who don't know a whole lot about him. What I appreciate about him, and there's not a lot that I appreciate about him, obviously, in terms of the substance of a lot of his policies and his project, is that he's incredibly clear about his project.
Yeah.
He doesn't try to hide a whole lot of what he's trying to do. When he was interviewed, one of the earliest places that he kind of was prominently written about was a profile of him in the New Yorker about how he was trying to platform and highlight critical race theory as like an animating project for conservatives to get behind, to not only change people's voting patterns, but also just change people's attitudes at the very grassroots level, like filling out school board positions with anti-critical race theory school board members, getting parents situating this idea of parents' rights in the context of parents having the right to basically dictate what their kids are learning, as opposed to the teachers, and situating teachers as ideologues, as opposed to as people teaching history. Making the person actually politicizing all of these things was Ruffo, by saying, "I'm not politicizing these
100%." And I thought about what I was going to say, how the entire IDW and the like the Barry Weisses of the world were the precursor to this kind of thinking about how there's some thought that's just way too dangerous, and the censorious liberals are preventing kind of free expression on college campuses. That was their organizing principle. As they're literally censoring texts, censoring important thinkers in history, people like James Baldwin, from getting to kids, from getting to college students, are these like what was Barry Weiss's whole thing? What was it? The forbidden classes or whatever.
Forbidden knowledge. I don't remember what the Harry Potter ass class was called.
Yeah, these are the damn forbidden. This is forbidden knowledge, like quite literally. They're being censored. This is what should be taught by these IDW people.
They just ultimately don't want people to learn the last 70 plus years of American history. You know, that's just basically it. When they're complaining about like African American studies and history in, you know, United States, they're really complaining about like the last 70 or so years, like since the civil rights movement. They don't want people learning about like SNCC. They don't want people learning about the Black Panthers, you know, James Baldwin, Assata Shakur, any of those things. You know, they might be okay with people learning about W.E.B. Du Bois or Du Bois or like, you know, Frederick Douglass, you know, a few of the early Black abolitionists, if that. But they, you know, just like all of the right wing, you know, pseudo intellectuals online, they prefer an intellectualism that predates about 1940, and they never are curious as to why that is. They're not curious as to why they don't like philosophy and social theory that comes from, you know, not just conservative thinkers from, you know, pre 1945. They don't think that that's relevant to why their sort of, you know, understanding of history is so stunted.
Yeah, what's the subtext in that, right? Maybe they want to examine that, but actually they don't. They'll go so far to ignore their own racism, or to, well, they're not really ignoring it. They're just making it operative.
Yeah, they don't like modern. They don't like the African American history part is strong in it, but like they don't like modern philosophy either. They don't like even most basic sort of social democratic philosophy, like Rawls or anything would upset them too. So they're like they get to like 1950, and then the only philosophers they want to talk about are like, you know, presidents and Fox News hosts and like what Rush Limbaugh's second autobiography said. Like they lose like the plot around like 1930.
That's why they also completely fetishize the founding fathers as well, is because they're able to talk about like American ideals and abstract them from practical realities. And plus that whole document there, the founding fathers, pretty racist, my understanding. Anyway, scumbags. Affluence and wretchedness. New colleges where R. Derek Black, son of the founder of Stormfront and godson of David Duke, was de-radicalized by his classmates. Wow. So, undercutting of this, like this school had a tradition of de-radicalization. They don't depressing.
The right wing is definitely focused on the hegemonic control that you can garner from controlling not just education, curriculum, but also the social structure of these institutions. But I think that, you know, it's very unlikely that this stuff that they're doing here is going to turn every student at that college into like a young Republican. It's just going to make most people miserable. It's going to make a lot of kids miserable. And like, yeah, some people will come out more racist, and the racists who would be otherwise exposed to like Black people for the first time won't have that aha moment. But like, generally, this is mostly about punishing children for like deviating from what Republicans want them to be like.
Yep. America, cops have assault weapons because the population has assault weapons. The cops are militarized because the people are militarized. All of the above is bad. Also, that's not necessarily true. We have sent like used military equipment from our wars on terror to these police officers. Agreed that we need gun control. No argument there. But the cop militarization is way more tied to the U.S. military-industrial complex, I think, than it is to the general population and level of arms that is there as well.
Also, just to jump in, I know I've been talking a lot, but I would say cops are allowed to have military weaponry for the same reason that people are allowed technically, or at least justifies having it. And it's because America views itself as unique in that we have various inborn populations of like pre-criminals that we've accepted need that kind of weaponry within our society to prevent them from doing harm against either the social order specifically or your suburban household. And so there is just a lot of, why people have guns in this society that are built around like racism. Like, oh no, there's like a criminal element that is just existing out there that one day might break into your home, and like, how are you going to defend your family without an AR-15? And then, like Emma was saying, we have just a surplus of military stuff that has to go to somebody, and that's why when people like are very readily willing to like hand wave our foreign policy, hand wave our foreign kinetic militarism as though it's going to be totally separate from the way we do things here. It's like, no, it just has to, it inevitably comes back home. A lot of the same counterinsurgency tactics we used overseas came back home as well. It's just, they just want you to think that these two are dichotomous or that there are just separate justifications. But it's one, the way we view people overseas is the way we view them here.